Hi, welcome to an American exiled in Russia. I'm wearing sunglasses in case Big Brother Putin is watching me. This video is about what it's like to be stuck in Russia when you really don't want to be, and you're an American. And it's about differences between America and Russia, and cultural differences, and politics, and environment, and pretty much everything. And not just about Russia, because Russia gets boring, just about world events and everything. Anyway, so to find out why I'm here, it's a long, convoluted story, man. Like my grandma was born in St. Petersburg in Russia, but her father was German. And anyway, during the revolution, they immigrated to Finland. Well, at least the women. The men fought against the communists. And then they immigrated to Germany. My grandma married a German officer who was killed in the war. Then after the war, they in the 1950s they came to America, and so I was like the first generation that was brought up in America, and so they settled down into this kind of like Russian cliche in America, like hanging out just with Russian people because they kind of denied their German, their German roots and clung to the Russian roots. And they all like spoke Russian all the time and just hung out with Russian people. My grandma, she knew like three or four languages like German, French, Russian as a native language, and I think Swedish, Finnish definitely. But she never spoke English, even though she lived in America for 30 years. And I didn't speak Russian well, so I didn't have much conversations with my grandma ever. And so she got remarried after her husband was, killed and or died, whatever, to a Russian. And my step grandfather was a total asshole. I mean, we'd come to visit, and he'd yell at my father, why don't your children speak Russian, right? And if you don't speak Russian, go sit in the corner and shut up. And so we'd sit in the corner and just read comic books. So yeah, I was brought up in this kind of, oh, you're not American, you're Russian. And when Russia is free, you have to return to Russia. And this kind of like, it's just, I got so sick of it, all the bullshit. And my dad was too busy to really teach us Russian, so I felt out of place not knowing the language, even though I lived in America and I knew the language better than they did. But I felt out of place with my relatives and all, and it just got totally turned off by the whole idea of, oh, you're Russian, you have to return to Russia and all that crap. And I embraced like my German side of family more and learned German instead of learning Russian. Anyway, that's the background. And so then my brother started a business in Moscow. First of all, after like the fall of communism, he started like a black market business in Moscow, where he'd work in America. And we were all American citizens. He'd work in America and in construction and make money, buy a bunch of like jeans and leather jackets and stuff like that, stuff that like Russians really wanted at that time. And then he'd go to Russia and sell on the black market and make a lot of money. And he'd be like, I'd live for 6 months like a king. And then I go back to America and work for 6 months, and then come back and buy a bunch of shit, and then come back and sell it and live like a king for 6 months. So he had this business building houses and log home houses, and he was bugging me to come and work for him. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I have no interest in working in even visiting Russia. I'm so sick of this whole Russian culture that was being pushed on us and everything, and being looked down on and made to feel inferior because I didn't speak Russian, even though we lived in America and I was American. And no, I never looked down at my grandma and that she didn't speak English, even though she lived in America. I just felt sorry that we couldn't really communicate. Anyway, so I had no desire to even visit Russia, let alone go there and work there. So it was bugging me for like 2 years. And I had a good job in America, working with my best friend and everything. And it was great. I had no desire. Anyway, finally he said, oh, we're working outside of Moscow, inside of a village. And there are so many wild animals there. There's bears there and wolves, and you can't leave the building without a rifle. All the workers have rifles because it's so dangerous. And he knows I love animals. And I'm like, that is so cool. Okay, I'm coming to Russia. I'll come and work for you because I want to see all the wild animals and everything and all that. And that is so cool. And that's the first time I came to Russia. And of course, I never saw one wild animal. It was all a bunch of bullshit that he told me just to get me there. So if it wasn't for the fact that I love animals so much, I would have never come here in the first place. And now I've been here for 12 years. And so, yeah, that's basically the beginning of the story. And I did see one bear some hunters captured and had it chained to a tree, and the dogs were barking at it and everything. They probably were going to sell to a circus or something. Well, other than that, no. So I got here, eventually fell in love with a girl. We got married, had a kid. Then a couple of years later, got divorced. So the only reason why I'm living in this country is to be a good father to my son. And, you know, I would, unlike Russians, it's normal and typical. Once you get divorced, the parents abandon you. I'm a teacher of English language, right? And my teenagers tell me that most of their parents are divorced, and then they tell me that the father just abandons them, moves off somewhere else, and for the most part doesn't even pay like child support or anything, and has no contact with their children. Right? And I'm not like that. I mean, my son means everything to me, and and I spend as much time as I can with him, and um, and that's why I live here, to be a good dad. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for my son, I would move back to America in a second. I mean, right now, but I never can because yeah, my son is everything to me. He's the center of my life. So yeah, that's the beginning of the story. And then a lot more things we can talk about. I'll come up, and I don't know if you find it interesting. Let me know. Okay, bye from Russia.